Tonight's hobby enhancement is some more of the Balvenie double wood, now with new balls. Tonight we're doing another Armies on Parade video. This time Andrew's been kind enough to bring his all-conquering Empire army. And we'll zoom in a minute and get some nice close-up shots. Well, I'd say this is an army I've learnt to dread over the years, but maybe it's more accurate to say I've learnt to dread fighting against Andrew over the years. But this Empire army's been bashing around a few years, and it's become one of my favourite armies to fight against. Right, Andrew, talk us through what we've got.
Okay, so this Empire army is actually my second fantasy army. My first was the High Elves, which was a lot of fun to use, but I had a lot of problems painting it because High Elves are very difficult to paint. They're very intricate, very clean looking models, and at the time my painting skills weren't really up to the task, so I decided to move on to Empire, which I thought would be a bit easier.
Oh, I think that may have been optimistic.
Yes, as it turned out, humans are just as difficult to paint as elves, but fortunately for Empire they're usually covered in plate armor, which is quite easy to paint. So this army is based around the Knights Panther. So their colours are blue, yellow and black. So I try and have everything in the army that has those three colours on them, or some combination of those three colours, just to try and tie the army in together. So the Knights Panther, a lot of their stories are to do with their, I don't want to use crusades, but their adventures into Araby. So it sort of crosses over into real world with the crusades. So a lot of their imagery and a lot of their colours, a lot of their histories are based upon, I guess, the crusades that are in the real world. So the centre of the army is a big unit of knights, inner circle knights there.
Oh, so this is guys I was just zooming in on a moment ago.
Yep, so there's 9 of those. I use them as inner circle knights, so they're all strength 4 as standard. And they're led by a Grand Templar Master. So that's pretty much my main combat unit. Behind them is another unit of Knights Panther, not in circle. I use them mostly for flanking stuff, killing war machines, stuff like that, taking out really small units, or just getting in a flank charge against another big unit if I have another big unit already engaged to the front.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of big units that I engaged to the front, the Great Swords. So
yes, these bad boys. Just get a close up of these buckers.
So these guys are really the heart of the army, and yeah, really great miniatures. I really enjoy painting these guys.
I have to say, fighting your army, I worry a lot more about the great swords than I do about the knights.
Really? Okay, all right. They are fantastic. I mean, they're stubborn as standard. Don't have to pay for it. It's just their trait. Come with great weapons. Their weapon skill 4, their leadership 8, stubborn, and they get plate armor on top of all of that. So they got a 4-up save. And I think they're about 10 points each. So absolute bargain, really.
Yeah, I'll go toe to toe with those with my dwarves, and you just know you're not going to cut through them in a hurry, and you're going to take casualties.
Yeah, you pretty much have to kill all of them simply because they're stubborn as standard. A lot of other stubborn troops, they're stubborn by a spell or a banner or whatever, something that you can do something about. These guys, there'll be one guy left and he'll still be testing on leadership 8, regardless of what's coming at him. So, also in the unit, I usually put my BSB.
Yep.
Just to make sure they're never going to run away.
Yeah, well, we know that one.
And my other favourite thing to put in that unit is a warrior priest. Right up front there, holding a little book, and he's got a big warhammer.
Yeah, he's got a shield on him as well.
Yeah. So I don't give him any magical equipment. He literally does have heavy armour, a shield, a hand weapon, and that's it. He's only there to give the unit hatred. So in the first round of close combat, whether they charge or whether they're charged, everybody in that unit gets rerolls to hit.
Mm.
So the number of times that's saved me. Most of the time they're hitting on 4s. So to get that reroll, you go from 50% chance of hitting to around about 75% hits.
I've noticed that your army, all of your armies are very finely honed killing machines. There's not much fat to be found in any of Andrew's army. There's usually 2 or 3 games of experiment until he figures out exactly what to do to fuck you every time.
Well, yeah, I like to make my armies as efficient as possible, or to try and maximise their strengths and minimise their weaknesses.
And I've just noticed that your army, while it does look a bit like a bit zealous, shall we say, you seem to have a lot of priests and backing priests. Let's see if I can get a decent shot. We have flagellants, yes, those mongrels.
Yeah, so going back to the whole Araby crusades kind of thing, you can't go to war without the crazy people.
Doesn't that decide?
Yeah, they just have to follow along, don't they? And they definitely tie into the whole, Knights Panther, crusading army sort of thing.
Yeah.
What's next? Steam tank.
Oh, yes.
You can't have an Empire army without at least one steam tank. I only take one because they're just horrendously good.
They are. The steam tank is extremely hard to defeat. I won't say I've never defeated them before. Let me see if I can get my fucking zoom to work properly on this thing. We're experimenting with different filming equipment at the moment and it's not rolling very smoothly. Yeah. If you got cannon, not too bad, but generally the Empire have cannon as well. But I've had a tree in a fight against that thing. I don't think it worked out well for the tree. What did you kill with it last time?
What did I kill? I think the last game was against Dark Elves, so I think I killed a Hydra.
You killed a Hydra with it.
I think I drove over the top of a Hydra.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for the Hydra.
But they have toned it down. The steam tank. It used to be toughness 10 at one stage. Now it's toughness 6, so which is definitely a good idea. They did drop the points a little bit. They used to be 300 points, I think, and now they're 250 points.
See, in theory, I can't really complain. Toughness 6, 250 points. It's devastating when it's at full power, but you wound the bastard and it peters out fairly rapidly. But I just don't seem to have had a great deal of success over the years on damaging it.
Yes. I think at most I've lost maybe 3 or 4 wounds, but never more than that, and that's when it really starts to slow down and start to fuck up and stop working on you.
I think I had a Greater Demon of Khorne beat one into submission once I was entertained.
Yeah, that'll pretty much do it. You want to kill something, get a bloodthirster.
Grinding attacks are horrific.
So next to the steam tank, I use these guys as spearmen. They're not spearmen. But these were really fantastic miniatures in their time.
Leopold's
Leopard Company, yeah.
Leopard Company, yeah. Pikemen.
Yeah, so these are from the Regiment of Renown, back when they were a thing.
And they're all metal, aren't they?
They're all metal.
That's a shitload of money you've got right there.
So they were $6 each when I bought them. You got 3 of them in a pack for $18.
Yep.
And I think I've got 39 of them. So that's 10, 11, that's 12 packs at $18 each.
So it's about over $200 worth of investment.
Oh, well over 200, yeah.
These days, you probably, look, it depends on where you sell them, who's keen to buy them, but you'd probably sell those guys for about $110 each.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many of them. I'd never sell them, of course. It would just that would be a sacrilege.
It would.
And again, these guys were just great fun to paint. I had a lot of fun with all the leopard stuff on them, and the huge pikes, and they were really great to paint. I think I painted the whole unit in like a week or something. I just went absolutely crazy and just painted the whole lot.
They look quite striking on the table.
Yeah, and they look great, and 39 spearmen are a good blocking unit.
Well, it's right. It's not very expensive points-wise either, and you're there all day trying to get through the bastards.
Yeah. So I just chuck them on a flank and throw them at something nasty that I just don't feel like fighting.
That's
four turns later, they're probably dead, but then the game's over by then, so I don't really care too much.
Yep.
So yeah, great unit. There's lots of other regiments of renown that I really wished I'd got when they were around.
Yeah, if we'd known the legacy value, there's a lot of stuff that I would have bought just to have, knowing that I never would have had the chance to get it again.
Yeah, and Regiment of Renown is definitely one of those sets of regiments that those crossbowmen with the
Purveyor sort of.
Purvis crossbowmen, yeah. Oh, they just look fantastic. And then there's the Slayers. I think they were dwarf Slayers.
Yeah, long. Is that long drums?
I think they were pirate.
Yeah,
dwarf Slayers or something.
So yeah, back when naming conventions were a bit more interesting.
Yeah, they would have been great to have as well. So yeah, I just use them as spearmen. Nobody's ever come along and said no, you can't use them as spearmen. They're not spearmen, but so that's kind
well,
of.
Well, if they do, tell them to fuck off. You got $400 worth of rare miniatures. You're going to play with the toys.
yeah. I think they make a right spearmen. So okay, moving on to the next unit, which will be the Pistoliers.
Okay, I might redeploy my camera here. Bear with me. That's them. Okay. So one of the coolest looking units in the game.
Yeah, one of my favourite Empire units, and again a lot of fun to paint. This was the first unit I painted for the Empire Army.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much started the Empire Army just so I could have Pistoliers. I'd like to say they're useful and they do lots of stuff on the battlefield. More often than not, I do something silly with them and they just all die.
Well, they've got that rule they get to be ahead of the rest of the army.
Yes.
And if you don't get rid of them, they'll do something nasty to your army.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens is they shoot the fuckers.
Yeah. Because their shooting is actually pretty freaking devastating. So they're double tapping their pistols there.
But you can always treat them as ablative because they're a high priority target. If you don't deal with them, they'll do you in. And they're available as a target fairly early on in the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty much guaranteed that they'll die against any competent opponent. But that just means that something else isn't dying.
Absolutely, yeah. The war machines are not getting targeted or whatever. Because if you let these guys go in the first turn, they'll just do an 18-inch march around the back of your army, and then you'll never get them.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much forced to shoot them in the first turn. So I've used that to my advantage a couple of times. It's just, it's kind of heartbreaking to see them get wiped out on first turn, but hey, look,
Well, this is why, there's rich people have many noble sons.
Yeah, I guess we can't have too many of them running around, but yeah, a great unit, lots of character. Their paint job is looking very old now, but yeah, like I said, this is the first unit that I painted for this army. I suppose they look okay, but I think if I painted them again now, I'd probably do them a bit more justice.
They're very neat. I think they look just fine. I think the main problem that you've got with your army as a whole, and this is something we all get from time to time with armies, is it's been left somewhere that's not been entirely sealed and the whole thing's got dust on it.
Absolutely, yeah. They do need a good bath. Okay, next unit. I guess that'll be the Demigris. So this was the last unit that I bought for this army. So I think...
Okay, there they are. Let me just settle this camera in so we get a nice steady shot on those.
So I bought the Demigris when 8th edition dropped, and everything changed. So you had to take bigger blocks of everything. Cavalry became less useful. Infantry became massively more powerful. And war machines became less powerful as well. Because you'll notice I don't have any mortars, even though I do actually own 2 of them.
Which is interesting because the mortars have given my dwarves a very hard time over the
So
years.
they used to be strength 3 for the whole template, and then strength 6 in the middle of the template.
Yep.
So they were fantastic. So you're winning dwarves on 5s, but let's face it, you cover an entire regiment.
Yeah, you're covering 20 of the bastards, so he's going to add up.
Yeah, and they're only 75 points each for a mortar, so I'd always take 2. Because one would deviate or one would blow up, but the other one would fucking hit and you'd kill a whole bunch of them.
That's right, it's Warhammer. If you want something to actually work, take 2 of it.
Absolutely. But then 8th edition happened and they were dropped to strength 2.
Were they now?
And they went up to 100 points. So they cost as much as a great cannon. They got less powerful. Andrew had a massive dummy spit and put them away in a desk somewhere, and I have not taken them out since.
If you took them against my wood elves, it'd still fuck shit up.
they would. But I was very much traumatized by that and put them away forever. So the Demigriffs, so they're an 8th edition thing.
And they're powerful as well, how they're
Monstrous Heavy Cavalry was definitely an 8th edition thing. Sort of in my opinion, they're too powerful for what they are and for what you actually pay for them. I think Monstrous Cavalry from any army is definitely underpriced.
Yes and no. I mean, you get a couple of cannonballs in there and it's all over.
Yeah, true. But I mean, they got 3 wounds, so they, still got a fairly good chance of surviving.
Actually, and to be fair, I keep saying you just get a couple of cannonballs in there, but how often does it actually fucking happen?
That's right. You got to hit, then you roll a 1 to wound, or you actually wound it, but then you roll a 1 for the number of wounds. And, some bastard's got a ward save or something. But no, the Demigriffs are. Oh, they're like all Monstrous Cavalry. You throw them at just about anything and they will just grind through it.
Yep.
There are so many high strength attacks and they have special rules for this and special rules for that. And of course they're Monstrous Cavalry, so they get a stomp as well.
Yeah, and you can't kill them with Killing Blow.
Yeah, that's a great point. No Killing Blow either, so...
Yeah, I've always been rather miffed by that because I think, but actually probably that's... It's an issue with Monstrous Cavalry, I think, if you can kill him with the Killing Blow, because really at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is chop the head off the fucking bastard who's riding it.
Yeah.
And you can do that for a guy who's on a dragon.
That's true.
In fact, I threw a block of blood letters at a Chaos Lord who's worth like 300 or 400 points by himself, who was on a dragon who's worth a few hundred more points. And I lost the block to the dragon, but not before we decapitated the rider.
Yep.
But I can't decapitate those little fuckers there.
Yeah, a bit of disconnect going on there. So, but that's why I've only overtaken 1 unit, because I figured if I took 2 in this army, I think it would make it a little bit too unbalanced.
That's also the question of what you would get rid of, because you've actually got an almost perfectly balanced army.
I'm not sure if there's too much I'd change. So this clocks in at about 2,500 points.
Yep.
As it is at the moment.
Which is kind of the optimal amount for a solid evening's game.
Yeah, or for 8th edition anyway. So next would be the War Machines. I've taken 2 War Machines.
Yep. Just adjust the thing here. Well, yeah, because you get a cannon in your steam tank, so you've only got 3 guns. Yeah,
I do actually have another great cannon at home. I've never used it. It's the original great cannon from the battalion box, and I got this second one. I can't remember where. I think I bought it second hand, and it's more of a brass looking thing, and I thought that looks a bit better, so I'll use that one instead.
Hexagonal barrel, whatever it is instead.
Yeah. So great cannons do what great cannons do. You target something big and nasty that you don't want to fight, and hopefully fucking kill it.
I must admit, I don't think your cannons have done an awful lot to me over the years.
Nope, not really. I've been fighting against dwarves, so maybe I'll target iron breakers or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, your organ guns give me a hard time, but.
So yeah, the Hellblaster volley gun is just the absolute pinnacle of war machines. Really, it's just absolutely horrendously good.
Now you don't have to spend a turn reloading after you fire it, do you?
No.
Because if you think about it, if you're going to reload 9 fucking cannons, this is why they didn't just have tons and tons of these things on medieval battlefields.
That's right, yeah, it's one shot really, isn't it?
You fire the fucker once and you're there for the rest of the battle.
Yeah. You tell the enemy to come back tomorrow and we might be ready for you. So I always take the engineer, so he sits in between the 2 war machines. So I'll always fire the cannon first, because I can use the engineer to re-roll the misfire dice if it misfires.
Oh, yep.
And if it doesn't misfire, then I can use the engineer to use his ballistic skill on the Hellblaster volley gun.
Oh, okay, so you got a system.
Yes. So it's very efficient little artillery thing going on there. It's designed like that, so that they never blow up, and that Hellblaster volley gun is ballistic skill 4, because you have to roll hit with it, obviously.
So I do the same thing with the dwarves, but I use runes to get the same effect.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, if you're going to take artillery, you may as well spend a few extra points to make sure it actually does something, or doesn't blow up on you.
There was a glorious time when dwarf cannons were only 90 points, but they gave them the great cannon rules instead of the toned down normal dwarf rules. So originally dwarf cannons were range 48. They were distilled at D6 wounds, but they were shorter range.
Right, yep.
So they were 90 points.
Yep.
8th edition came along, and the new cannon rules replaced the old dwarf cannon rules.
Right.
So I was getting great cannon firepower for dwarf cannon points, and I stopped putting runes on the fuckers. I thought, well, I'll just take an extra cannon instead. Why not?
Yeah.
If one blows up, that's cool.
Yep.
But yes, and they put the price of the cannons up to 120, and suddenly it's reasonable to stick a rune on it.
Yeah. Pretty much all the war machines went up in price with 8th edition. Not
Makes
really.
sense. 8th edition's a monster mash.
Yes and no. I mean, cavalry sort of got a bit of a kick in the ass
It did.
in 8th edition, so
You need twice as many cavalry to get the same effect.
yes, yeah. And monsters, I think, have a harder time in 8th edition because they can't. I mean, in previous editions, you'd charge in with your dragon, you'd kill the front rank, and nothing would fight back at you. And there were no steadfast rules, so it was an automatic break test.
Yep.
So you kill 5, then they're taking a break test at -5, and then the dragon fucking chases them all down.
Yeah.
So now you've got steadfast, and you get 2 ranks attacking. So as long as you've got at least 2 ranks, you always get a rank fighting back. So I think monsters have got a bit of a nerf in 8th, which is probably good.
Interestingly, yes, and it is good.
Yeah.
The flip side of it, though, is a 2,500 point game effectively replaced what would have in the old days been a 1,500 to 1,700 point game.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas we used to play 2,000 points, we now play 25 to 3. And what that means is you've got a lot more points to take monsters, and Games Workshop was moving toward getting a lot more monsters into the game. And you can't encourage people to buy $200 single model kits if some bastards is going to pick him off and turn him on with the cannon.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And that's
So,
fair enough, yeah.
A bit of game meta change occurred there somewhere along the line.
And they did change the whole guess ranging thing. You don't have to guess the range anymore.
Oh, that's just an opportunity for every bastard to cheat anyway.
There were lots of ways around that, yeah, that's true.
I did like that one where people would measure their body parts. And
Oh,
memorise
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'll just lean across this table gratuitously.
That's right,
before
yeah.
guess ranging my cannon.
Yeah. And so the last unit would be the Pegasus Rider back there.
Yes. Now this bastard, I call just the shot. I call him Captain Fantastic because usually you would field him as a captain, and I don't like him. He's not fantastic. He's an asshole. I call him Captain Fantastic because he fucking shows up every game, and he hops, skips, and dances around cannonballs like there's no tomorrow. Charges in and starts walloping off my war machines. Every fucking game.
He does have a remarkable luck at surviving. I'll give you that. Having said that, I normally equip him with a 1+ rerollable armor save, so that generally helps a lot.
But see, that won't stop a cannonball.
No, that's true.
It's my stunning inability to hit him with a cannonball that saved him game after game.
You have fired all manner of other shit at him, and or try to wallop him with something big, and he normally just shrugs it off and says, "Oh, whatever."
You could fire the entire fucking Confederate line from Gettysburg at this bastard and he'll walk through it.
That's true. So the Pegasus is obviously Bretonian Pegasus. Back when I got this guy, there were no Pegasus models available.
Right.
There was an Empire General on a Griffin, but the Griffin looked absolutely terrible. I didn't go with the Griffin. I decided no, I'll put him on something cheaper. But there were no Pegasus models available for the Empire.
Right.
So yeah, just went on and bought a Pegasus Rider from the Bretonians, painting him up, and there you go. Nowadays, of course, I take him as a lord and give him a Rune Fang just to really fuck shit up.
But you know what? The one time I killed that motherfucker,
Yeah.
about a year ago, it was a general with a Rune Fang.
Was he really?
Yep. Normally he'd be a captain. You took him as a general for some reason.
Right.
One time I killed him.
I think just to give him the Rune Fang, I think you have to take him as a...
Yeah, that's right. To have the points along.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I can't remember what I killed him with, but I got the motherfucker.
You killed him with your Dark Elf Mage, with that funky stone thing
Oh.
that ignores armor saves, because he has a 1+ rerollable armor save.
Yeah, it's the one where if you hit the mage...
Or if you wound the mage, you automatically cause a wound back with no armor saves.
Yeah.
And
That'll fucking learn you.
And I think I hit her 3 times, and you made all 3 of your fucking ward saves.
And I pissed myself laughing.
And just automatically killed him.
That was the funniest shit, because, there's a few things that Andrew's done to me over the years, which have resulted in some wargaming PTSD, and this prick's one of them.
I was not happy about that. I was not happy at all.
Fucking serves you right.
Can't even kill a bloody mage. So anyway, that's my empire. 2,500 points.
Might get a nice little angular glam shot on these bad boys from over here, if you don't mind.
So the only thing I would want to add to this army is a Empire General on a Griffin, because there's a funky new model that Last Sword Miniatures have released, and it looks absolutely spectacular. So maybe at some stage I will add a new general to the army.
Yeah.
On a nice big scary looking Griffin. And of course a new Warhammer will eventually drop. So
it's about a year or two away, they reckon.
We'll see if what Empire stuff comes out with that, because I believe it will be centered around Empire and Britannia. Oh, we know Britannia is going to be in.
They're bringing out Cathay.
Well, we know that Empire and Britannia are going to be in the new.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, definitely.
Kislev.
And Kislev, yeah. So he's hoping that the Empire gets some new models. I'm assuming they will.
Yep.
And I'm working on the assumption that it's going to be at the same scale. It's going to be on square bases, and we can just pick up where we left off. Fingers crossed.
Well, we certainly hope so. Games Workshop seems to be run by people who are more confident these days, so they might get it right. And look, I have to say, this army, I very rarely beat it or even tie against it. The more interesting question is, how many times have you beaten somebody who's not me with this army?
No, this army has a staggeringly good win record. It's just it's a very stable army. It doesn't have a lot of gimmicks to it. It's a very stable, reliable. And
well,
like you said,
don't have a mage. That's interesting.
Oh no, I do actually have a mage. I didn't bring him tonight. I normally take a level 2 and take life.
Yep.
Because that life bloom spell. It's really great for healing powerful things.
Like tanks. Strange that life bloom, you big steel behemoth, you.
It's strange how that works. Against other opponents, it's always done quite well.
Yep.
Simply because it's reliable, and like you said, there's not a lot of fat on this army, so each unit generally does its job to a reasonable amount of effectiveness.
I was talking earlier about synergies, and you do have this good balance of like rank and file and flank hitters and speed and guns and all that sort of thing. It's really optimized, but the synergy of having those basic warrior priests in 3 of your units?
2, so in the knights.
The knights and the
great swords.
I thought you had 3 of the buggers.
Not just 2.
No, maybe it's because those are 2 units I tend to fight the most. That really ups the effectiveness. I mean, those rerolls and those cavalry come banging in with their lances, for example.
Oh, how embarrassing is it for cavalry to come charging in and you just fail with all your lance hits? It's just so frustrating. I really feel for Bretonian players when they charge in. It's like, okay, well, you kill 2 things out of 10 knights.
1 round of whiff and
Yeah, and it can cost you the battle. So stuff like that I try and mitigate with known effects that you can rely on.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my army.
Well, beautiful. I look forward to fighting against it again and having horrible experiences again. I do remember there's one war story. It's one of your war stories. We went to this tournament and we only got the first game in at the tournament because one of our friends had himself a little bit of a meltdown. I had to go and help him out. And I took the dwarves. It was a 2,500 point tournament, and I did alright the first game. I got a win. And I went to check on how Andrew was going, and it was the first time I've ever heard of him losing with his army, and Captain Fantastic and got himself fucking killed early on in the game somehow.
Was that against the vampires?
I don't know, but
I think it was. I think it was a vampire count army.
Yeah, nobody liked that army.
Yeah, that was Delta. That's some pretty good stuff in it.
When that guy and the Skaven army fought each other, we used to have a bit of a laugh. But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, I've had my ass handed to me by this army and that guy in particular. How many times now? First game of the tournament, both of them fucking whiffed.
Yep.
I was very put out.
Yeah, Vampire Counts, fucking great army. Lots of stuff that ignores armor. Lots of stuff that can just fly in and do something magical, and a whole bunch of stuff dies automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff that I just, wasn't used to facing. So it was kind of, it was brand new, and it's like, oh, so that's how that works. Okay, that's I'm taking off a unit.
I have found with Vampire Counts, you really need to know how they operate in order to be able to fight against
Sure,
them.
I'm sure they do have an Achilles heel.
Yeah, and I'm not experienced enough with them to know what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah,
yeah. I've had a few sharp learning curves there myself. But look, it's a beautiful army. The colour scheme theme ties it together really well. The basing ties it together really well. In addition to that, the sheer brutality of its basic effectiveness, it's got synergy in rules as well as appearances. And it's not noble, so I like it even more.
Well, we'll bring them next time.
Alright, well on that note, thanks for watching. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, all that guff. Time to call it a night.